Hey everyone. Tonight with the Open Heart, we are playing Girl by Moonlight, the shiny limited edition cover. Girl by Moonlight is a Forged in Dark game by Andrew Gillis, which looks at, I guess, well, we're doing a series called On the Sea of Stars, which is specifically kind of mecha oriented, but it's magical girls regardless. My name is Donna. My pronouns are he, him. I'm going to be running the game for the next 5 weeks. I guess in my early gaming career, I played a lot of BattleTech, and I guess that BattleTech adjacent media was kind of my first exposure. And I guess there was lots of explosions, and even then, lots of drama. And this is a lot less mechanically heavy than BattleTech was, so thank goodness. So we'll just do a quick round of the rest of our group, and then we'll jump into the series Bible. Matt, how about
My name's Matt. I use they, them, or any pronouns. I've also got my Girl by Moonlight Classic Edition with this very cool person on the front. I've been looking forward to playing this for a while. I greatly enjoyed the Earth Unmade series run by the author Andrew Gillis on the Actual Play channel, and that got me really pumped on it. And it's just a cool mecha story in its own. I've enjoyed Evangelion and a little bit of Gundam, but I'm not too well versed on the series or on the genre. But I just think it's really cool, and I love emotional games centered around characters in fraught, challenging circumstances, and I think that's what we're gonna find with lots of cool, scary aliens and robots and other kinds of fun things. So yeah, I'm excited.
Ian? Do you want to go next?
Sure. Yeah. My name is Ian. I use he, him pronouns. Um, I'm currently running a game of Lancer and have run Lancer with the Open Hearth in the past, which I feel like is probably similar to what you were saying, Donna, in terms of BattleTech. Lots of grid spacing and hexes that we're probably not going to have to worry about in Girl by Moonlight. But yeah, I love mecha stuff. I really like Gundam. I really like Vision of Escaflowne. Um, and probably one of my favorite movies of all time that might become very relevant in this game, where we're fighting against the Leviathans, is Pacific Rim, um, which just rules. It just rules in every way. So I'm thrilled to be doing this.
Great stuff. Thanks, Ian. Sibi?
Yeah, hi, my name is Sabine. I use any pronouns, and well, I've played Girl by Moonlight before, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed this very dramatic world and these young people who are fighting both themselves, basically, and something that is really a problem that they should be fighting instead of thinking about their emotions. But they're teenagers, so well, yeah, and I really enjoy these dramatic stories. So here I am. I did never play BattleTech except for the one time when we had these Kinder Egg figures and played BattleTech with them, but I don't think it was really BattleTech. So
I mean, the mobile Firebrands Zero crossover is alive and well between the wargaming and role playing space. So, yeah, cool. Okay. So, when we set up our series, we got a bunch of questions to ask and answer. So let's move to the series sheet in the character keeper. So there is, yeah, a lot of questions. So maybe just so I don't wreck my voice, I'll start and then we'll go through the list and maybe people can read out the options. These are options for, I mean, primarily you all to decide on as a group. Um, uh, there's a lot of really cool options here. We may end up cheating and not being able to decide between two, but let's aim for constraining ourselves a little bit. Um, so yeah, the first question is about the void, and the question is, what lurks in the void? And the answers here, you can see in all these options, there's like a little note attached to these text boxes where we'll write in our answers, so you can see all the options yourself. So what lurks in the void? A world of ghosts and demons, a storm of psychic energy, ancient gods rewoken, guardians of the natural order, a vast, all-consuming organism, or our basest fears made manifest. So Matt, obviously everyone is going to get a voice for this, but are there any that are jumping out at you for this one?
Ooh. I like the sound of ancient gods reawoken. I can rarely say no to that sort of thing. Guardians of the Natural Order is interesting because it puts us, it implies a lot about us and where we might be trespassing. A vast all-consuming organism, basis fears made manifest. Sounds like a very scary game. And a world of ghosts and demons. I like the option of being able to play Blades in the Dark in Girl by Moonlight, or being able to play Girl by Moonlight in Duskwall. I love demons. I'm maybe less excited about ghosts. I think Ancient Gods Reawoken is where my heart lies, and there's lots of cool space to play there. So I leave that open.
Ian, I saw some enthusiastic thumbs up there. What are your thoughts on those options?
Yeah, I really like the idea of ancient gods reawoken. I mean, I think the idea of something lurking in the void implies a degree of like mystery. So whether they actually are or aren't uh ancient gods is something I feel like we will probably have to discover. But I feel like it's a very human impulse to be like, here's this big scary thing that we don't understand. Let's name it after Hades or something,
Mm-hmm.
like um and whether or not that actually has any connection to our like past or mythologies or something is an interesting contradiction that that I'm looking forward to resolving. So yeah, I'm very much into the ancient gods.
I really like the sort of archetypal potential there of like bringing a very different spirit to us, and I like that they can also be very human seeming or something we could like talk to and reason with, rather than just like a faceless, nameless void that we would have to um, fight against. Sabine, do you have any thoughts there?
I mean, would have been my first choice. To the ancient gods reawoken. But my question here would be is why were they asleep? Who put them asleep? Was that us? Or was there a reason for that? Do we know that reason? Probably not. At least not our characters, but somebody might. So
Can't
there,
wait to answer.
Mm-hmm.
so that might be something there that hints to something that the humans did to the gods to put them asleep, and maybe they're angry for a reason. Who knows? Maybe we'll learn that, because I assume that they are angry if we are fighting them, or maybe not. Who knows?
Yeah.
We'll see.
I mean, do we get like a sense of like these ancient gods in parentheses demons? Is there a difference, or have you identified exactly what they are? They just, like you said, are maybe in the guise of this culture's gods or deities.
I would prefer it if they weren't demons from that have no connection to the culture, if that's okay.
Yeah, they could be something that we've connected to in a way that is unexpected. I like the possibility of cults or of misguided worship.
Oh,
Um,
nice. Yeah.
and I like the idea of like temples and like if we have a very if our world is very larger than life in that sense. Um, but I guess this is the void rather than the Leviathans. So it's not necessarily what we'll be fighting, but it's what's like lurking behind there and what is sort of yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean they were put us to sleep, right? They are not connected properly, I think. That makes sense. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm sure that the rest, the rest of the answers to these questions will provide us some kind
For
of
sure.
cross
Yeah.
insight into this.
Oh
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Good point.
So the order in the Keeper is slightly different from the order in the book. I'm going to.
I don't like that.
I don't like that either. Is it meaningful? Is it just, I don't know, a previous version? Um,
Can we do book order?
we can do book order. Yeah.
I'm happy.
I don't have the book in front of me, so.
Yeah. So the next question is going to be our hubris.
Oh, nice.
So what act of hubris brought doom upon us? An ancient king shattered the gates of death, or first attempt at interstellar travel, casting signals across all realities, meddling with the flow of time, harnessing a forbidden source of power, or trespassing in their domain. Ian, do you have any thoughts on that list?
Yeah, I'm leaning pretty strongly towards meddling with the flow of time or harnessing a forbidden source of power. I feel, I mean, we don't maybe have such a clear sense of our like, our society here. Um, but I want to stay away from things like our first attempt at interstellar travel because I want to build up this society to like really great hubristic heights for it to have, collapsed from. Um, so I think something that's like very advanced, like meddling with the flow of time is a is something that I'm interested in.
What are your
But
thoughts?
it could be any of these that's like uh there's a lot of these on this list that kind of fulfill that wish. So
yeah, I mean, our first attempt at interstellar travel is like the the whole event horizon as the inciting incident of the 40K universe fan theory, which is just great, but a bit. I don't want to say normal, but yeah, I kind of get the deal. Sabine, do you have any thoughts on these options?
Yeah, I do. I like the whole meddling with the flow of time, and I think maybe we can combine it with harnessing a forbidden source of power because black holes that they influence the flow of time, and maybe we messed around with that a bit, and that kind of made bad things happen because. Or maybe we just messed with the flow of time in another way. That's also possible. I like the combination of messing with the flow of time and the time travel that is in the playbook.
Yeah. Matt, what do you think?
I like the sound of that. The other one I want to put forward is trespassing in their domain. And because we have reawakening ancient gods, I think meddling with the flow of time steps nicely in there, and that's a great way to reawaken somebody, is to walk into their place, maybe searching for something, or maybe trying to find a new frontier, or maybe trying to bring something back, something that's currently inaccessible to us. So maybe we're getting into the territory of choosing 3 from the list, but but I think the flow of time is strong with what lurks in the void, but I just love how evocative trespassing in their domain is. And gods have domains, and there could be a particular domain that we trespassed in. But we could leave that for further questions to jump out at us.
I mean, maybe it's the domain of time we trespassed on with our shenanigans.
Can I be like a little nerdy here for a second?
Oh, go ahead.
Is that a question?
Sort of like there's this sort of anthropological concept that, it's not a perfect model, like a lot of, well, to be honest, a lot of like anthropological models that were developed in the West, mostly by white guys. But the idea of like sacred time and profane time, and there are all of these ancient civilizations that are characterized by having like, at one point there was the time of gods and heroes, and now there's our time, which is distinct and separate from that. But by practicing our rituals, by practicing our sort of like our rites and things, we can return to that time momentarily, right? We can kind of like by reenacting those stories or something, we can kind of return to that time. And in some cases, I think that there are some like Mesoamerican uh, uh, cultures that have an aspect of this. In some cases, if you don't practice those rituals, you're like not renewing the world. Like the idea of like a new year and a new world are the same. So the idea of kind of like either on purpose or by accident, intruding into the space of the gods, by accessing some kind of time. I think that like dovetails really nicely.
So were we trying to circumvent having to do these rituals by like forcing our way back and finding a shortcut, or can you touch on like what we haven't done, or I guess the way that we have harnessed or meddled with the flow in relation to that concept?
Personally, I'm happy to like let the like we've filled out 2 entries. I think the rest of these answers will like fill us in, but yeah, I definitely think that there's probably some kind of like loophole or something that some tricky crafty move that somebody tried to pull.
Yeah, there's a science fiction series where they mess around with calendars a lot and use them in their space flight and things like that. And I forgot the name of it, which is a pity because it was a great series. But maybe it's got something to do with us messing with the calendars, and that awoke the old gods who were actually guarding these things. Never mind, maybe not too clear about what happened, but more this pesky.
Yeah, I mean, maybe let's put in with an asterisk to be like made a bit more concrete later on, but like trespassing in the god's domain brackets time. There's something there going on, and maybe we'll come back when
Yeah, I'm content with that.
the rest. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay, back to the Leviathans. Why do the Leviathans come? To reclaim something we stole, to consume minds and bodies, to silence our civilization, to entrap and contain us, to tear down our great works, or because we are in their path.
I think the idea that they want to reclaim something we stole, that seems interesting to me, because that means that the impulse came from something we did and not because they just want to eat us, basically because we're in their path or want to tear us down. Or we could go with they want to tear down our great works because for reasons that we have not fully understood yet. It's also possible. So these are the two things I'm leaning towards. I don't like consume minds and bodies.
Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, our great works could be like profane to them. I'm just so intrigued by what Ian you brought forward about like the age of gods and heroes being inaccessible to us and something we need to do to like re-access that. And I want,
Right. And there's like a right way and a wrong way to do that. Right.
yeah, absolutely. So they come because we're doing something the wrong way. And a lot of these, I think, are very interesting. And something we're doing could be making like the lives of like I wonder if the ancient gods being asleep was good for the status quo and we've reawoken them. Like silence our civilization kind of jumped out to me as though we're like putting out a signal or something disruptive into the world by what we've been doing. But I don't know, all of these are interesting. Do you have thoughts, Ian?
Yeah, I'm gonna draw on my love of mecha anime here, which is there's two series that I want to bring uh, into the conversation. One you already mentioned, Matt, which is Neon Genesis Evangelion, which has this very like pessimistic view of humanity, especially a pessimistic view of like the institutions that humanity creates. In this case, like Nerve, are kind of shown to be like morally bankrupt. And the other one, which is kind of the anti-Evangelion, is called Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann, which is almost exactly the same setup, except the viewpoint of the show is it's cool actually that we took the gods' powers and the gods deserve to be dragged down from heaven and humanity is right to oppose them. And so like I'm kind of curious about like I think any of the ones that you brought up could be really good and they will suggest something about like what the like suggest something about our society or like the last bastion or something. Like to silence our civilization to me um indicates that our civilization is like a threat. um and the one regarding like reclaiming something that we stole indicates to me that there's like like a sin or some kind of like intrinsic evil or failing that we are guilty of. I could go either way on those, but I think that they will kind of, like that's what the decision holds for me is the distinction between those two things.
I like the idea that this is something we did, maybe not on purpose to hurt them, but nonetheless, right? We did it.
Right.
We didn't see the consequences of our actions. We acted short-sightedly, which is something humans would never do, I'm sure, but this is
I've
fact.
never known them to act
No,
short-sightedly.
no, never.
Yeah, then why don't we go with reclaim something that we stole? Are you okay with that, Matt?
Yeah, and it implies that we used our access to other time to take something from a place that it belonged.
Sure.
Or at least drawing on our previous answers. That is one avenue we could go. But yeah, I love a transgression.
Um,
I just had an idea though that I do want to throw in because it's just very interesting to me. I was just thinking about our great works, and I thought of the idea of us having created portals to other places and being a gate or a crossing point from traveling to other places, and tearing down our great works could be like a cool setup of like them trying to remove our access to places where we should not be going. And it implies a lot of smashing and destroying great works, which I just think is very evocative. But I'm totally happy with what we all just settled on harmoniously, and I'm happy to move on to the next question. But I had to externalize that because I thought it was cool.
that I like the, I mean, we stole something from them which could actually be the
cornerstone of those great works, right?
cornerstone of these great works, right? That might totally, I'm fine with that being connected. We stole something and now they want to destroy our great works that we created with what we stole. What we stole can be knowledge, or can be the time that they actually liked to have. And we use maybe the time to go through these portals, because they usually would take a lot of time, but we compressed that.
It could be something that while we have it near us, it thins the veil between us and other time streams or something that enables us to maintain these portals or avenues that we can go to other places. Maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves, but I think that's cool.
That's a cool idea. I like that. I like it being more than just like a device that we found. I like it. I like it being like a practice or a technique.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yes, an ancient way.
Yeah, totally.
An ancient way of worship, maybe even.
I mean, nothing bad can come of any of
that. The joy of a GM.
Awesome.
We're just handing knives to Donna right now.
I mean,
take the belt. Take the whole utility belt.
I mean, to quote my favorite warlock, Deadlock, you know, what would you do with dark powers other than metal? You know. Awesome. So let's talk about.
Sometimes they're literally screaming metal with me.
Yeah. What form do the Leviathans take? And here are all the juicy options. Massive demonic sea monsters. I guess that would be the Blades in the Dark option, right, Matt? Spacefaring cephalopods. Cyclopean mechanical horrors. A hive of colossal insectoid mutants. Mountainous perversions of nature, or blind-eyed subterranean abominations. Wow, that's a hell of a list. Matt, do you want to put your spoke in there first?
Well, I was all over the last one, but I guess what jumped out to me is thinking of our themes. Blind-eyed subterranean abominations implied something buried, something old and forgotten, something ancient, something re-emerging that could be interesting. And Cyclopean mechanical horrors gives me a little bit of the ticking time, a little bit of the more mechanical, like clockwork steampunk kind of vibe, which isn't always my favorite, but it did jump out at me thematically. So I'm not, and I love mountainous perversions of nature. That's just my generic favorite, but I think I'd like to leave it open for others here.
Yeah, Ian, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, right now I'm leaning towards I also have some affinity for the Cyclopean mechanical horrors. Drawing on a little bit of the like Jack Kirby's work with Marvel Comics, the kind of like huge, what are they called? The Eternals or the Celestials, those kind of like huge giants that like created the universe or whatever. And also, I mean, I love the spacefaring cephalopods mostly because of the reference of Mass Effect and the Reapers from Mass Effect, which are these kind of like squid-like creatures. But now that Matt says about the blind-eyed subterranean abominations, I kind of love that idea. We haven't really talked about like the size or like like the kind of scale of these creatures. But I kind of love the idea of like um like coming across an asteroid and being like, no, actually, that was just like one of these terrifying Leviathans that was like curled up for a little nap. It's like you know, bigger than the ship, bigger than anything. But that's cool. I like the subterranean abominations.
Sabine, thoughts?
Yeah, as much as I usually like subterranean abominations, the Sea of Stars gives me the vibe that we are in space a lot, and that kind of is counterintuitive to me with subterranean things, because they would be on a planet. To be subterranean, you'd have to basically be somewhere on a planet. But I like the idea of these asteroid creatures. Maybe that's actually what they are. They might have been subterranean at some point, but no, they are not actually subterranean. They are just the thing that is floating around in space. Because I really like the idea of things that are in space.
Can I pitch an idea to you, Sabine?
Sure.
I like what you said about these things starting out as subterranean.
Mhm.
Maybe they like maybe they like hatch inside of planets
Oh,
or
nice.
and then escape. Or you might find a
Mhm.
planet that's like infested by these
Mhm.
things.
Yeah, and maybe sometimes they just leave planets and to do whatever. I mean, they wanna mess with us, right? So they have to get there, or they have a what Matt said. Was Matt right about the portals? Maybe these things know how to do the portals, and that would then work with subterranean creatures if they could actually create these space portals.
They could use our own hubris against us. Um,
What?
when you said asteroid, I just imagine like these things like falling to the earth, like the children
Mhm.
of the dead god or something, and then like bursting
Oh,
from asteroids to lay siege to our
nice.
stolen technology or something.
Mhm.
Um, I also like that these could be like if they could be drawn to divinity in some way, like if a sleeping god was lurking at the core of a planet or something, then these blind-eyed subterranean creatures could be something that comes from that
Mhm.
or is drawn to that, like a hive around and that feeds off of that sort of energy. But without getting too tangled here, um I think that is all very good. I guess what's interesting is this like a cosmic god? Like, is this like a wide-reaching thing, or is this something that is from civilizations past on our own planet that we have like buried deep below? Because that makes it much more of a Turanian game, like much more of a set in our world. And if it's more of a cosmic thing, then that brings in the stars a little more, which I'm totally with you, Sabine. I think we should leverage the galaxy a little bit here. Um,
Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
probably go with that actually, instead of being bound to some kind of world that we probably aren't on anymore. I mean, that might lead us to us exploring our ancient world where humanity once came from, which might be interesting. But look, I'm talking myself into all sorts of stuff that might be interesting instead of talking myself out of it. So I'll go with the whole let's let them be deep space exactly space thingies.
I mean,
That
we've been talking a lot about like portals and the flow of time and stuff, so it's very possible that these things could come from like a possible future or alternate timeline or
or the
something.
past or a possible past that we have somehow lost with due to our meddling with time flows. It's
Mm.
yeah,
possible.
because blind-eyed subterranean abominations gives
Mhm.
them this feeling of like pre-evolution, like
Mhm.
ancient, like fossil-like creatures.
Mhm.
Um, that have come from a distant past, maybe when
Mhm.
this god um, was awake and alive. I
Mhm.
don't know.
Yeah, cool. I like that.
Um, so we leaning towards this abomination, or I know we had cyclopean mechanical horrors kind of as the front runner early on. We, I mean, is there a difference? I don't know.
I'm
They
happy
both
for it
sound
to be.
pretty horrific.
I'm happy for it to be the subterranean abominations. You know,
Mhm.
I was talking about Pacific Rim earlier. I'd like for them to be like big kaiju.
Yeah. Okay. And subterranean, like we said, can be. There's a whole galaxy of planets out there for them to be subterranean of, right?
A
So
sea of
Mhm.
stars, like.
yeah.
Mhm.
Being birthed from a planet just sounded so good. Whoever said that. So that's very good. Something that's to gestate.
Okay. Cool. Seems awesome to me. Okay. Now we turn our eyes on back to humanity. Um, so the last bastion. Um, where do we take shelter? So here we're allowed to pick one or two.
Mhm.
The options are an isolated city state, an ancient fortress, quarantined and sealed, rebellion and strife, law and order, and mobile bunker. So what you'll notice about these is there's a few that are very kind of physical or space oriented, and like a few that are more the vibe of the place. So it probably makes sense for us to pick one from each of those kind of sublists, but let's see how we go. Ian, do you have any there jumping out at you?
Yeah, I've got a pretty specific and specific take here, which can be tempered by other people's sensibilities. I like the idea of just look at the list again. Um, the ideas of like quarantined and sealed or a mobile bunker.
Mhm.
If you know if this were like going to be edited and go on YouTube or something, we should have a little counter for the number of different science fiction franchises that I'm going to reference in this process. But I was going to mention Battlestar Galactica, the idea of there
Oh.
being kind of like last ship.
Mhm.
Um, maybe one of those like often in Gundam, you'll get like the big cylindrical ships that are being spun to generate gravity, and you'll have one of those that's home to like thousands of people, and it's on its way from Earth usually to somewhere else, and the voyage is going to take like decades or centuries. Um, personally, I like the idea of some kind of like exodus or having to make a kind of civilizational escape, maybe from the results of our hubris. That's really only on the kind of like logistical side though. Like I'm not really getting into the more social aspects here. And of course, I'm willing to hear other ideas.
Sabine,
Yeah,
any
I
thoughts?
like the idea of what Ian was Ian, right? Sorry, said about the whole quarantined and sealed, and I mean, the fortress doesn't have to be ancient, right? Or maybe it is kind of an ancient spaceship, but maybe it's the last of its kind that was not corrupted by those space Leviathan thingies, something like that. That we are maybe we're not running, maybe we're trying to maintain this last bastion, because if it falls, everything else will fall too. That makes sense.
That is kind
What
of cool. The idea of it being like instead of an escape, it's like a desperate mission or something like that. That's cool. I like that idea too.
Mm. Maybe we're under siege, basically. That's my thinking. Like we're not maybe not able to run, really. That's where the fortress comes from. We're quarantined and sealed, but we may not be able to run.
What do you think, Matt?
I was sort of all along imagining us being planet side, partially for our civilization to have developed so far and our hubris to have brought us so far. I was imagining like ziggurats and like giant sky temples and cities and things like that. And I guess with if we've established this portal technology and a way to like send people or wander between time streams, that would imply some sort of like setup or grounded sort of quality. And then the subterranean monstrosities, I think it'd be cool if they can do their burrowing and their subterranean vibes. But all that aside, I like the idea of like quarantined and sealed, and I do like the generation ship. I guess it just removes some of the elements that I think could be really cool, like the scale of our world. We could be like past that point where that was maybe in our recent past, and that's all been destroyed, and we've been forced to flee what was our home and our setup because of our hubris. Like we could be in season 2 or season 3 of this show.
Yeah, I mean, I think explicitly the game says we are in season 2. We don't have to introduce characters to each other, I think one of the things that I was kind of picking up on was like, oh, if we have these, huge, you said ziggurats, I'm thinking arcologies, right? These huge cities. Maybe the civilization had spread to different planets, but then when this war, this invasion by the Leviathans happened, you had to cut off contact, because these portals weren't working as well as before. So maybe you have your cake and eat it. Like you've got this like single city state, single ziggurat left that you know of, and you're like on your way to find the nearest one to save them or whatever it is. I don't know.
That's good.
Yeah.
It could be also that if we have a ship that is traveling, like the ship could be one of these temples. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with like a
cigarettes.
Flying space cigarette. Yeah, that would be sick.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah, there is a flagship, so there is like another ship, even if you had like your generation ship thing going on. So
we could have even taken off with part of the planet with us. And then we have our flagship, like something about like it's consecrated ground or some kind of like we need this to survive, to grow something. I think that could be a fun twist.
Well, I would rather not introduce a new thing that I think is cool at the expense of some of the things that we've already established and kind of come to a consensus on that we think are cool. So if you would rather have this be a more terrestrial situation, Matt and Sabine, I'm fine with that.
I'd rather have it as a spaceship flying around.
Yeah, I mean, and partly I'm thinking about like potentially a longer game, but we have 4 sessions. Let's be in a cool flying spaceship city that is on its way to, like Dono sold me with like the potentially going to rescue or reconnect with another city civilization, and the phrase that these portals are not as reliable as they were, and implying that we could still use them, but with much danger to ourselves and sort of thing. So I like the broad aspect of that. So flying city ship is cool to me.
Yeah, flying city ship, but just quarantined and see it.
Yeah, maybe but it's not like city. It's like the Vatican. The space Vatican.
Yeah. It's not like it's a big city. It's like a well.
Yeah, we could go millions.
Yeah,
hundreds of thousands at least.
Yeah, I mean, we need to be able to lose a couple of those, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I like the ticker from the Galactica show that you mentioned, where it was like 7,000 people, 5,300 people, 5,301 people, because there was a child born.
Right. Oh, that was such a great
Yeah.
moment in that show.
Mhm.
As one of the two tangents in my brain right now, I did run a Apocalypse Galactica campaign quite a few years ago, and we ended up with the human population 2.
Oh,
Not even all the PCs, one PC.
that's not enough.
Not enough. Uh, uh, but yeah, I put in Interstellar Ziggurat. I think that kind of
Yep.
encapsulates what we are at.
Yep.
We've gone off the list, which is fine.
Mhm.
I think we can totally get away with that.
Basically an ancient fortress.
Yeah.
We have so many things to choose. Wow.
do.
Fortress and it's a mobile bunker. There you go.
It kind of exists in this liminal space between all those options, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask, should we do breaks on the hour, or do you want to get through the questions?
I think we should do breaks. I think we should take a break now. Okay. So our next question is, what is held to be sacred? Sabine, let's start with you. The options, we get to choose one or two. The options are order, strength, hierarchy, obedience, edifices, organizations, hatred, and sacrifice.
Yeah, that's that. Wow. Okay. What is to be held to be sacred? I feel talking about the whole thing with the rituals and stuff like that. Maybe it's sacrifice or edifices. Let me check what on the exact meaning of edifice here. Okay. I'm sorry. I know theoretically, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, so maybe it's edifice actually, the temple we're in. I mean, we even call it a temple. Seems like that could be sacred. Or should be
Or
sacred.
these, like, I don't know if they're giant, but maybe they're giant now, these portals, right? These,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Matt, what do you think?
The portals could even be made from arrangements of structures.
Mm-hmm.
These structures could be invoking some sort of ancient religious symbols or stories or heroes of times forgotten in order to access the flow of time. And whatever we've done has provoked or awoken the old gods in some way. So just linking all our thematic stuff together. I like edifices. I like the word edifice. And I like the idea that we've built our civilization very much out of structure and order in some way, and now we have to find some way to find that and maintain it while not having the lands that we built it on and lots of the things that we started with. So yeah, I like it a lot.
Ian, what are your thoughts?
I really like the edifice angle. I think that's good. Yeah, I like the idea of sort of like a sacred geometry or um some kind of thing like that. Um it says here that we should pick one or two. And I would like to advocate for organizations here.
Yeah.
Specifically, like I think about myself as like a humanist, a humanistic sort of person. And I like the idea that to the extent that we claimed this ancient power or maybe far future power, I don't know, it's the flow of time, it's all messy. Um that was done in an attempt to like improve people's lives or otherwise kind of like raise the human condition in some way. And we've also been speaking a lot about like ancient gods and not just spiritual, but like religious rites. And I think a big part of that is like a congregation or a kind of like faith community, which, you know, doesn't have to have any other connotations other than that, like, this is the thing that binds us together as people. So yeah, I'd like to advocate for the two spot organizations.
So obviously, when we talk about this game, this playset specifically, you know, the organizations are part of what is oppressing your characters, right? So is it that, you know, in the past these organizations were good, or were, you know, kind of organic, but now in this kind of wartime exodus, they have become kind of subverted by the state or imbued with
Yeah,
a
I
less
think
significance?
I get where you're coming from. I think it's, for me, the thing that is most interesting is that like they still these organizations, or, you know, organization, whatever, are doing what they think is in the best interests of just like humanity in general. And doing that requires these like desperate measures or kind of extreme steps to be taken in their eyes anyway. And so rather than having it be like, ha ha ha, we're going to put these teenagers in the robot, get in the robot, Shinji, you know, I think it would be more interesting to me if there was a degree of like, we wish we didn't have to do this, but
Marmalade child.
I have
Yeah.
a thought there, trying to tie some of our threads together. I do like the humanistic angle, and I do like us not just like being up to no good for no reason. Um, I like the thought of maybe our society has certain values or morals, or a code that it holds dear, but they had been neglected. And so part of what these organizations had been doing was to like fabricate saints or create paragons or particular people who, by making pilgrimages through time or something like that, they bring back like a spark of divinity, and they become like important figures in our society that can lead certain people. It could be like sects of a faith, or it could be like different temples and or orders to different ideals.
I have to say, we only have 4 sessions to play this, so I
You're
so
so right.
I think this would be I love the idea generally, but I think it might be too expansive for a run like that. But Donna, stop me if I'm off the track here.
No, I mean, I kind of get the point, but also like this is like the world your characters live in, and it's like maybe it's just like a foundational experience that they all have, and like we never see it in play or only refer to it lightly in play. You know, I'm happy for something to be bigger than we can address in play, just because it's there and you can't ignore it in character. You know.
The thing that it gives me basically is just a backdrop, but the ability to have like people in power named Valor or something who is our general, or ways to take these like ideals that are honorable, or something that we've reached through time to cultivate again, to re-enchant our world with, sort of going back to Ian's original Mesoamerican idea that you introduced. But that like, and some of them are like charity or health, or some of them are like actually good for people, and some of them have been twisted by the state in order to oppress us and do bad things. But maybe a delightful tangent.
I mean, I like the idea with the organization and maybe saints and stuff like that, but maybe it's they claim that this is the history of their organization. This is why it's still sacred, sure, but maybe it's not what they claim anymore. Because the general can be called Valor and sit behind his desk all the time and say, "Hey, teenagers, go and do the valorous thing because that is my name and I'm your general. And now you can do it," or not. But that's your fault, then, clearly.
I like this, not to sit on the fence, but this kind of threading the needle of like, this is the way we do things, being kind of sacred, right?
Mm-hmm.
The sense of not only organization as like an entity, but organization as like a guiding ideal, like,
Mm-hmm.
and like something that isn't necessarily, what's the right word, conniving or manipulative. Something that does have a place, but maybe, you know, the wrong people always find themselves on the wrong side of this organization, right? Does that
Mm-hmm.
kind of gel with your pitch, Ian?
Yeah, yeah, and I'm by no means trying to like absolve this organization or institution of its culpability in anything that it is guilty of. I like the idea of them not being like mustache twirling. Um,
Sure.
you know,
Okay. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
I just saw edifice can also mean a complex system of beliefs as well as a building, so that's cool.
there you go.
Just because English wasn't confusing enough.
I was just referring to the pronunciation, because
Yeah,
how do you look at a word like edifice and say, yeah, that's an edifice, and then next to it is sacrifice? Why?
I will refer to you to the words ending in OUGH, and
Yes,
that
okay.
is English telling every other language to hold its beer.
As a
Yeah.
Dowdy, I don't know what we were doing. I don't know what we were doing.
Yeah, fish.
Yeah. Okay. What was humanity forced to give up? Um, are we back around to you, Matt, for the first dibs on
Mm-hmm.
this? The list from which we choose one or two is community, bodies, intimacy, emotion, gender, growth, comfort, and hope.
Does anyone want to jump in?
I mean, maybe comfort, since we don't get any cotton candy. Sorry. But I think if we're in a tight bastion being hounded by these Leviathans, that might be something, or maybe intimacy, giving up intimacy, like, yeah, that might be illegal. That always creates a nice pressure on the characters who actually don't want to give up intimacy, but have to, because otherwise you might not be able to interact with your mecha thingy because it's jealous or something, or the intimacy is only with the mecha thingy. And
Yeah, I
otherwise,
agree. The idea of this society, or this sort of remnants of this society having this aspect of like, your first duty is to the the well-being of like the whole, or the crew, or the congregation, or something like, and personal relationships, personal emotions and things have to come second to that.
They sort of
Um,
dilute the strength of the organization or the group.
yeah, yeah. It might cause somebody to act, I don't want to say irrationally, but uh like in a way that's counter to the interests of the mission, or the interests of the something like that. So I like the idea of intimacy, especially because I don't think there are other emotions that are beneficial, right? There are emotions like solidarity, camaraderie, bravery, things like this that are like beneficial to the goal that seems to be kind of like coming into focus for us. But I like the idea of it being like, we don't have time to hold hands and kiss under the moonlight and things like this. we've got more important things to do.
I wonder, is this also the kind of, your humanity is jammed into this relatively small city state, so it's almost like living on the subway, right? You kind of are so pressed up to people that you don't really pay attention to these normal social signals, right? You're just doing your thing, right?
Mm.
So that is kind of intimacy has been given up as well, even on this kind of day-to-day level, not only just in your private lives, but
Maybe that's the only kind of privacy we get, right? By ignoring everything and everyone.
Yeah,
As,
the idea. Oh, go on.
yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Just the thought that if you get too familiar with the people who are like living all around you, then you have no personal space left. It's like
Mm.
being the one that everyone in your neighborhood goes to for help. It's like you're physically like there's the so close and so intimate with everybody that you have to draw back from that and keep. And I like the organization thing too, where it's like everybody on a small talk level, and on a like we all belong to this organization, and so we have that in common, but it's more about keeping our relations to the things that the organization is about rather than the individual connections between us.
okay. So I say just intimacy then, or does anyone have in mind a second one, a second double whammy for us?
I mean, it feels like comfort is also
Yeah.
one here.
Yeah, if we're packed so tight, comfort is not really.
And we're probably lacking a lot of the comforts of our home, having left it behind.
Mm.
So
These are like, we're talking about creature comforts and also
Mm.
like sort of a deeper like
Mm.
emotional level of contentedness,
Mm.
yeah, we are wayward.
but also being packed into the subway.
Yeah. Just
That's
another 28
horrible.
years to go, till our next stop.
Wow, that's really horrible.
Yeah. Okay. Could have
Sorry, I
cotton
kind of like
candy, but no.
I kind of took your spot there, Matt.
Not at all. I was all in on what is held to be sacred, so I think we're sharing each of these, and I just started it off.
So our next question is, we pilot engines against the Leviathans. What separates us from the masses? We pick one from this list. Doomed volunteers, elevated by the authorities, vat-grown, chosen by the engines, changed by the Leviathans, or drive and ambition. Sabine, do you want to take a look at this one first?
Okay. I mean, I like the idea of doomed volunteers. Like, yeah, volunteers, right? Something about elevated by the authorities and doomed volunteers, something like doomed to be volunteers by the authorities. That is the one thing. I mean, I also like the idea of it was our own idea. We were teenagers. We make terrible choices. We went in there and said, yeah, come on, go and change us, because that means extra rations for our families. Or it just gives us a spot to sleep on where nobody will tread on our feet. Maybe in the Mecca there's nobody else, right? Just you and the Mecca, which maybe we didn't consider. That's also an option, but I don't know. I like both, but what do you think?
I suppose if I still do like the thought of, if we're talking about um ancient gods reawoken, if y'all are still interested in being like in a temple, and like the idea of being a mecha pilot could have some sort of like demigod status, or being some sort of paragon or exemplar of some particular virtue that's held sacred to us.
Mm-hmm.
And Like
Yeah,
if we're
but
all about organizations, it could just come with a lot of status. So I like the idea of elevated by the authorities, as in like the status that we would get is elevated, and maybe we have volunteered as that role because we want that status.
mhm.
What do you think, Ian?
I'm going to offer a contradictory point of view here, which is to say, thinking about the kind of coercive nature of this society, right? Like we, whether that is in a kind of direct fashion or a more indirect, like, societally reinforced fashion, we shouldn't be here. We shouldn't be doing this. People of our age and experience shouldn't be asked to do this. And also bearing in mind the idea of like we have stolen this power from heaven or divine time or the realm of these ancient gods or something. I kind of like the idea of the engines themselves being tied to that power. And so I feel like my initial instinct is towards chosen by the engines, for reasons that nobody really like understands. It's
I have to say
no,
I
go ahead.
would
Yeah.
prefer it if it were other humans or ourselves who put us into this position instead of some engines.
Okay.
Seems I'm just my take.
No, I mean, I'm happy to defer to what you want. Um, in that case, let's go with the elevated by the authorities.
Mm-hmm.
I think that one splits the difference
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
pretty nicely.
Do we the
And
authorities, is that like the military structure, or do you think that is like the congregation? I think is the word we're leaning towards. I think Matt, you mentioned that. Maybe it's got like a ritual thing to it. Maybe maybe they say it's like you're chosen by the engines, but really they're choosing it um, as part of this kind of obfuscation or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I
I'm
like that.
I'm getting like I'm just thinking of like Percy Jackson, like like going to Camp Half-Blood kind of thing. Like it's this enticing opportunity for teenagers, and each of us would have a different relationship with our engine. But I do like the idea of being like blessed and sanctified and divinely chosen in some way, and that can sort of bring possibility into all the options that we've
Mm-hmm.
looked at.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think probably elevated by the authorities like splits the uprights
Yeah.
and it's right down the middle.
Yeah,
Okay.
cool. Awesome. So at this stage, we're not picking playbooks, but we are like for your character choosing a role or roles that you play like in the organization or in the kind of fictionally at least. So you should all choose one or two for yourself. Um, so the list is, and I don't think I have this anymore, do I?
This isn't on the series
Yeah.
page.
Yeah, I don't think I have this. So let me grab it from the PDF, which I think it's in. Yes. Okay, let me paste that in, and then I'll just read them out for everyone. So the list of your roles, of which you get to choose one or two, are Ace Pilot, Insubordinate Rebel, Weary Mechanic, Civilian, Troubled Captain, Rejected Candidate, Press Ganged Convict, forbidden lover, or naive idealist?
Well, I have to say I'd rather choose the playbook first to have a clearer idea what my character is about. Is that wrong?
Well, specifically, you're picking one or two in tandem with
Oh.
the rest about your
Oh,
fictional
okay,
role.
okay. So this goes for the group. We're all dewy-eyed idealists, or
No. Sorry, this is for your character. One or two of these.
okay.
Um,
But I don't know who my character is yet.
well, this is when you're starting to decide. Okay.
Okay.
I see nothing wrong with clicking through the playbooks while you look at these. But I guess we decide this sort of the the story role before we decide which playbook fits.
Are we trying to avoid doubling up here, Donna?
There's nothing specific that we have to avoid here in terms of doubling up. So, I mean, I guess, does it make sense if you have more than one insubordinate rebel in the group? Maybe not, but you can certainly have two of one of these roles, I guess it just means we'd be kind of concentrating on the dynamics that demands of us.
Well, I have an idea if that would make it easier for other people to play off of.
Yeah, go for it.
I kind of love the combination of rejected candidate and naive idealist.
Ooh, yeah.
Like, I don't know that we have like a pilot exam or anything to be elevated by the authorities, but I love the idea of playing somebody who's failed 8 times, and is going to take it again the next time that it's
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Or who has cheated to get through because they know it's so important that they do, or something.
Or is just like in the right place at the right time to like hop into the cockpit or something. Yeah. Yeah, that's I think what I would like to do is rejected candidate and naive idealist. Very much like Steve Rogers before getting the Captain America super serum.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Troubled Captain with maybe a side of Forbidden Lover, but I'm still pretty open. Sabine, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah,
or
in
feelings?
that case, I would take the press gang convict, who might also be an insubordinate rebel, because I mean, if you're a press gang convict, you're probably not the shining the knight in shining armor, right? Yeah, I think I'm a press gang convict, why ever they chose me. When it's kind of hard for other people to get in, I mean, they should have just taken you, whoever you are, Matt's character. Do you make a note of that somewhere? Obviously you are. Donna.
I'm just writing it down on a piece of paper.
Okay. Okay. That is very old school of you, but I will. Do I want to write on my map? I do not want to write on my map. That is a horrible map. No, I will write on my map.
If you're picking Forbidden Lover, do you have an idea or an inkling of who that might be with?
Yeah, I'm thinking somebody like a young priestess in the faith world, someone like who, intimacy is very much not supposed to be a thing, especially for leadership, people in leadership roles. So
like a Vestal version.
Yeah, this
nepotism,
Yeah, I think this is someone who is supposed to be a guiding light for a lot of people and who has a lot of pressure to fulfill that role and maybe isn't really up to the task or has to put on for their role. And maybe who's someone who's been through time and back.
Okay, well, So, bearing all that in mind, we can choose the playbooks. Now, the playbook tabs do not have a great summary, so let me read those out from the book.
Thank you.
So the Enigma is a mysterious ally and dramatic hero. The Enigma is good at working from the shadows and dramatic revelation. Play an Enigma if you like being the center of attention. The Guardian is a vigilant protector and patient healer. The Guardian is good at protecting others and caring for their friends. Play Guardian if you want to make a statement about what is right. The Harmony, two voices speaking as one, a beacon of hope. The Harmony is good at understanding emotions and acting in concert with their allies. Play the Harmony if you want to inspire others. The Outsider is a renegade with a troubled past and something to prove. Good at direct confrontation and brash, reckless action. Play the Outsider if you like conflict. The Stranger is a cold and distant luminary. Is good at calm evaluation and unconventional approaches. Play the Stranger if you want to know how things work. The Time Traveler, I'll be shocked that this doesn't get picked, is a secretive oracle and dedicated friend. The Time Traveler is good at using flashbacks and prophesying outcomes. Play the Time Traveler if you want to have your own secret agenda. And the Unlikely Hero, an unproven prospect and heartfelt companion. The Unlikely Hero is good at making friends and getting in over their head. Play the Unlikely Hero if you want to be the heart of the group. I will say that given we're playing a relatively short run of this, the Unlikely Hero, I think, is like starts with their transcendent abilities kind of untapped. So it might be that we want to avoid that. But again, if someone really wants to be that, then we'll make it work. So, does anyone have any strong preferences for a playbook?
Yeah. Well, right now I'm leaning towards the Guardian or the Renegade based on your descriptions of them. I think that ties in well with the idea of a naive idealist.
What's the
Outsider.
renegade?
The
Sorry,
Outsider, I think.
the Outsider. Sorry, that's my bad. Renegade is in this sort of byline.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Guardian or Outsider, because I think one of the things with the Outsider is they have like a rivalry with somebody. Is that one of the
Yeah.
the kind of central aspects? Kind of, I think depending on what everybody else chooses, I love the idea of this character being like, having an engine pilot that they look up to slash want to surpass very badly, you know? And if that is one of, if one of you chooses a playbook that is like very flashy or sort of like, beloved by the people or something, I would probably go with Outsider to represent that relationship. And otherwise I would go with Guardian because Guardian seems to be the most like heart on your sleeve. Dunna said it was about, making a statement about what's right, so those are my two choices, and I could go either way.
The after-school special character, is it?
Very much.
Okay, Matt, do you have any thoughts about playbook?
Those are also my two choices, with the Stranger as possibly a third. I'm not. I was thinking. I don't want to be a beacon of hope necessarily. Time Traveler is also very cool. And I think that can be that could be really interesting. So I guess I'm pretty spread out. First I'll hear from Sabine and then can get a little closer.
I mean, I was looking at the outsider as well, because insubordinate rebel and press gang convict kind of yells for the outsider. I would play the time traveler, but I already have, so I would rather avoid doing that. And anything else, I don't know. I don't think the enigma fits. Guardian, no. Harmony, no, probably not. Stranger, maybe, but I'm not too interested in that actually.
So I could play Time Traveler, you could play Outsider, and Ian could play Guardian. That's a possible arrangement.
If
Yeah.
Ian would be okay with that.
Actually, I think it'd be fun if I played the Enigma.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Nice. Okay. Yeah.
I have
Cool.
thoughts about that, but we can get there.
Yeah. Okay. You're my rival.
So wait a minute, you're pretending to be someone else while in the
Well,
cockpit, because you're not supposed to be here?
My thought is that like maybe in we said we're starting in season 2 here, right? My thought is that maybe in season 1, for most of season 1, this character was like dying to get into the cockpit, and then in like the finale did so and did something heroic and like saved the day, or something. Which is something that happens all the time. Like every day needs saving in this situation.
Yeah.
It's not like, the thing. But so now we're in this situation where like this person has formed a bond with this engine. They have demonstrated some aptitude, but they still haven't passed the test or like any kind of like uh yeah, they haven't like jumped through the proper hoops. And so I like the idea of it being like kind of a like a shameful thing that I'm the one in the cockpit because I haven't, abided by the I don't know, the sort of ritual strictures.
Cool.
So like having to pretend when I'm outside of the cockpit that I'm just like a normal person and have, having this secret that I can't tell anybody is fun for me.
Cool.
Okay.
So specifically, is the secret is sort of that you happened your way into the cockpit and then earned your stripes, but you're not really supposed to be there.
Yeah.
Okay, I love it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, awesome.
In that case, I definitely want to play the time traveler, looking more at the playbooks.
So I suggest changing the name of the tab of your playbook to just put your actual name in brackets after it, because there isn't any space for your player name to go on the actual sheet. And then the thing to fill in is your role, and those are the 2 roles that you just selected previously. So like press gang convict / rebel, whatever the options are. Okay, I will hide the rest. Okay, cool. So we'll come back to actual character generation, but now that we have like an inkling of where we are as characters, the next question that we ask on the series sheet is, how do they keep us in line? So I can't remember whose turn it is to have a first go of this now. Sabine, do you want to go first?
Sure. Let me check where I was looking at my playbook. But I can look at the series sheet. How do they keep us in line? I think it's maybe a mix of gilded cages and threats and fear. Like if you're here, you're good, but if you're not here, you're not good. And neither is anybody else you care about.
Ian, does this kind of build on the kind of shame that you were espousing for your character because they didn't make it and they're not supposed to be in this, so they're kind of hiding a little bit when they're outside the program?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I mean, I think specifically the character that I'm playing is one who's very susceptible to propaganda, but I think that's just them individually. And I think you know, from a broader like a broader sense, the idea of this being like a crucial mission and not having like room or space or resources or something for people who aren't going to like demonstrate their worth to the project is a very evocative one. And the idea of like yeah, threats and fear, like, oh, like we might just leave you behind. We might just like, you know, give you an escape pod and like launch you launch you out into the void, and you know, and then we'll just go our separate ways and no hard feelings, right? Like,
yeah, or it might just be, yeah, you could also go and be I don't know, toilet scrubber or warp core scrubber, which comes with the high risk of actually incinerating yourself. That's like, because you need people. I know you don't, right? We're overcrowded. So yeah, I think the maroon, yeah, we'll maroon you somewhere. It's gonna be fine, probably. Provided the subterranean, blind subterranean entities don't show up. But you didn't want to fight them. Maybe they'll appreciate your pacifism.
Speaking to the cultish angle to the congregation, it could also be that once you're sworn in and the rites have been complete, there's your gilded cage, you're decorated, you're like appointed all these designations and offices, and you're seen as some sort of like almost saintly figure or some sort of protector and or a hero. And if the threats and fear could be that if you don't complete your trial or what you've been sworn in to do, or what the fates have in store for you, then you will, you know, distort the timeline, or you will bring ruin on all of us. So it could be a lot of personal obligation in the threat sense, like you know, and that's I like how Ian's character subverts that a lot, where it's like there's no, you know, how can that be true if someone who hasn't, you know, gone through all this process, if they don't have a fate that has been ordained and prescribed, and what if they are, you know, the hero or a hero of our people?
My character thinks basically it's Hollyhock, but yeah, you can't just walk away from this.
And I'm a true believer, so
nice.
Um,
Nice.
Matt, how do you think the follow-on question is, why can't you just leave? Is it that you just that like you outlined, or is there something else? You know, you get spaced, or you know.
I mean, I feel like that's part of it, is like, where's there to go if we're on a temple ship? You can't really just leave town, I feel like.
I guess this is more of you as pilots, right? Not of the general population, right? You're the ones in this gilded cage, this kind of sacred trust that you have. I mean, I guess where else is there to go is a powerful question, but
I think that if we shirk our duty or break our oaths, then in some way we have like turned against our purpose, and we might be sacrificed to appease the gods. They might have a story for people about what happens to us, like we're plucked from the world and um, you know, disgraced or We are not meant to be, yeah, I'm not sure exactly what they tell people, but
Maybe it's like maybe it's like the sort of the sunny version of that, which is like, oh, they've gone to divine time. They fulfilled their duty and they're, they've been uplifted. Like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
it depends on how we are perceived. Like
yeah.
I guess if people see us as being heroes, but we displease someone, then we can be sent off to Valhalla. But if we disgrace ourselves, then there could be some slight more sinister, but then they give a story of yeah,
Mhm.
we'll
And
find
I
it.
suppose this must happen on a semi-regular basis, considering that this character that I'm playing has applied for an open position several times in the course of their young life.
Well, people must die in battle, right? So,
Oh yeah.
um, okay. Um, okay, let me. So I put in like breaking an oath is sacrilegious is like a shorthand for that. And like I like the whole depending on which way how you're thought of, you could be told one particular gloss or another. Um, well, speaking of what they think of you, Matt, the next question is, what is your reputation? I guess as a group. Uh, are you celebrated heroes, figureheads for the authority, cursed warriors, cultural icons, hopeless Leviathan fodder, or monsters in your own right?
I'm getting the sense that there are like the religious leaders and then um the warrior leadership, the warrior class, like we are the pilots of the engines. And I think those two things, maybe they're like saints and paragons or saints and whatever we are. But I think we're figureheads. I think we are, um, I think that people have to put their hopes somewhere. And we are like so based in organization that people always look to title and to rank and to destiny and to chosen ones in order to be the ones that will bring us to a better future. I think that's also why we've been digging through the past and trying to access the age of gods and heroes, maybe. There might be a cultural obsession with that sort of thing, with heroics. And so I think within what we've set up, we are well positioned to be figureheads, but also maybe celebrated. Does anyone else have feelings?
I think that ties in well with Ian's character who tries and kind of tries to get to be this figurehead, because this has to be a position that at least someone would want. But not everybody wants their destiny, right? Some people just want to vibe or whatever my character was doing before, maybe starring the pot a little, and they were a convict, right? So they were probably um, at least they were a thorn, right? Rebels. And then somebody looked at him and said, "Oh, no, this guy is destined to be in one of the engines. Go, guy, go in the engine. You're destined to be this. We see the
I was
shadow of greatness in you." And
driving
if,
on this ship and now I have
huh?
to go and do this.
Yeah, yeah, I wanted to foment a rebellion, and now I'm one of the figureheads. That's very effective way of silencing a voice, isn't it? Damn it.
We could be seen as cursed warriors too. Like this could be like a thing that we're bound to like we're figureheads, but like it's as much of an obligation as it is like people would respect us, but they would also like not want to be us. I don't
Oh
know.
yeah. Oh,
Ian, what were you about to say?
sorry.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
I think that there being a degree of like like gravity to this position is a good and an important one. I mean, we've talked a little bit about like sacrifice here, right? It's like, you know, not everybody gets the opportunity to die heroically in battle against the Leviathans. And probably if presented with that opportunity, not everybody would actually make that choice.
Yeah.
Really? Do you think so? Why would not someone not want that honor?
Be a
Damn.
hero?
Is like cursed
Of course, outwardly, everybody would say that they would do that.
Would they? Would they really? Everybody's dishonest now? Great.
I think outwardly they would say, yeah, I would die in battle against the Leviathans. I'm just not piloting an engine, so I can't, you know, like.
It might be heresy not to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're called or chosen, then, you know, of course you couldn't reject that offer.
But everyone's fingers are crossed.
Yeah. Cursed might be the wrong vibe here. Are we going with something like martyred or like future martyrs? Is that?
I like fated a lot. But maybe fate is not the right thing to bring in with how we've been messing with time. Doomed is good.
Doomed is good.
Martyred is good too. The word fate keeps coming to me because of our gods and heroes sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think from an objective sense, we can say that they're cursed, but the society wouldn't look at it that way.
Yeah. It's a reputation, right? So it's I mean, doomed or glorious. Glorious is like a whole other gloss.
Doomed with glorious purpose. Yes, thank you.
We could be playing out the will of some dark ancient god. So
it's like,
we don't even know it.
I mean, fated, though. I think Matt, like fated, does mean like maybe someone knows the hour of your death. You know.
I'm just curious how that's going to play in thematically with all our meddling with time. Like, are we trying to change fates? Are we? But are we married to this idea? Is there two factions here at play? Are some people trying to undo the fates that we're bound to? Maybe this is too deep and too much, but it seems like it's relevant for.
Maybe that's why they mess around with time travel to create these fates that they want for people. Right?
Ooh.
I feel that if anybody's
that's why the gods told you to back away, right?
Yeah.
It's too much for mere humans to meddle with.
Yeah. And just mess up anyway. Yeah. Which, surprise, yeah.
So the follow-on question to this is, what part of your reputation is deserved and what isn't?
Right, because this is asking what is our reputation to our society.
Yeah.
So we went a little bit the objective truth angle rather than the like, what?
No, I think that's how they see us. I think martyrs is the kind of thing that means that you are doing this of your own volition, that you're doing this because you want to. And that's not strictly true. Not of everyone. Some of us, sure. Some of us are like, yeah, I've got to die for everyone. It's such a glorious. And I was like, what am I doing here? I don't want this.
So the part of this reputation that is not deserved is, you know, not everyone is a volunteer, right?
Yeah.
Not everyone's happy with their fate as a cursed warrior.
Yeah. Not everyone gives their lives happily and willingly.
Yeah, it does seem that like being a martyr requires a degree of volition.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's what they say about you after the fact, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're thankful for their service. We're thankful for their sacrifice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts and prayers. Is
And it
there
seems
any?
like a thing. Sorry,
Sorry, go
go
ahead,
on.
Matt. Yeah.
I was just gonna say it's like a thing that is the accepted public opinion, and that's what people would say to each other. But it's also a thing that a lot of people know that is not the case too. So, but that would require intimacy to be able to actually breach that with each other. But no, we are very surface level, and we all know what we all hold in common. Go on.
Yeah.
So I was just going to ask: is there any part of this reputation that is deserved?
We are doomed.
We are warriors.
Yeah.
I definitely think that like if nothing changes, then we're doomed.
Yeah.
Because we're just the most recent in a long litany of engine pilots, right?
Yeah.
I have a question now. Are we the only engine pilots, or are we some of a larger group? Maybe not hundreds, but dozens or something like that, or a specific number.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's probably needs to be more than just the three of you, but is it like a dozen, or is it, much larger? Or are there like a set number of engines and a lot of extra pilots?
It does seem like the engines are like they're not exactly heirlooms, but it does seem like the engine pre-exists and then we kind of like inherit it in some way.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want for them to be like iconic, like or to have aspects of these like ancient gods or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I like the idea of keeping the number pretty low, like 7 to 12.
And I do like the idea of there being some rival pilots or some people that are yet to be ordained but are training in them, or some people that are still alive and still part of the organization but have sort of been retired or benched because of whatever they've got going on.
Yeah, the rare martyr emeritus.
How specific are the engines about who are pilots that about our pilots? Are the engines like do we have to be accepted by the engine? Is that like a thing that the engine is very specific, or is the engine like just an engine, like a car? Everybody can drive a car, right? Some people might be better suited to a specific kind of car, but
yeah, so there's definitely a incompatibility question, which will come up next.
Okay. Okay.
So
Sorry.
in theory, anyone should be able to sit into any engine, but it's in practice, it's not quite that simple, right?
Oh, yeah, they're semi-sentient, so okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So can we take a break now? Because I know we've gone past the
Sure.
hour.
That was
okay. Here's where we escalate matters. We're going to talk about the flagship. There's a short list of options here. We're going to pick one. Ian, maybe you can lead out with this one. The options are the last Leviathan hunter, a floating fortress, a top-of-the-line ship, a former civilian vessel, a swarm of smaller ships, and a sleek corvette.
Yeah, so we're making a distinction between our kind of like floating temple arcology ship and the flagship, right?
Yeah, yeah.
In that case, I kind of like the idea of a swarm of smaller ships. Specifically in my mind, I'm thinking about like, folklore surrounding like whaling and whale hunting. People going out in catamarans and canoes to to cast their spears at this sort of great beast. I like the idea of there being like lots of ships that like emerge from the temple ship.
I like that with our nods to organization and edifice. That we could be very practiced in formations. We could even have a bit of a Voltron vibe going on. But yeah, I like a swarm of smaller ships. What do you think, Sabine?
Yeah, I like it too. Maybe they can belong together a little. So maybe there are some, or they will just go back to our temple ship and we get to relax there. The smaller ships, are they big enough to carry one of the engines, or are the engines kind of part of that swarm?
I mean, they would. I mean, they'd almost have to be. Otherwise, what would be the point, right? Maybe
Yeah.
there's like a one engine, one. I don't know what we call it, frigate.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, okay. So each of these smaller sleek ships is a transportation device for the engines to get them where they're supposed to go and then fly off.
That's what I was thinking.
Ooh.
And they've probably got some like, some starfighters in there too, just for good measure.
Okay.
But I like that there's sort of like a linked network in some way, and in some way, like the connection between them makes them stronger or something like that. Just like the organization component,
Oh.
and how they could be synergistic in some way. I think that'd be very cool.
So the question is like, what is its name? Which kind of assumes a single one, but obviously each of them will have to have a name. But is there maybe a collective name for these smaller ships?
Probably, but I think maybe we go just with the Roman tradition of numbering them. This is ship number 1, ship number 2, ship number 3.
I think if you had to refer to the group in collective, you can tell me what you think about this. The idea of them being called like the chorus or the chorale or something like that.
Oh, I like that.
And then you can have chorus 1, chorus 2, chorus 3.
Yeah. And maybe the pilots of these ships, they have specific names, but they're not official. So we might know them or not. They might come up, that might come up or not. Yeah, but I like that.
Okay, yeah, cool. Is there a history? Like, are these like ancient ships with their own kind of traditions, or are these kind of very functional engine carrying ships? What do we think?
My instinct is to say that they're not literally antiques. Like they're not, they weren't built thousands of years ago, but I do like the idea that they're kind of like in homage or like in reference to, like I said, like a myth of seafaring or something like that. So maybe they have some like design elements or other things that are like purposefully anachronistic, like sort of throwback chip design or something.
How does it sound?
So I think they're meant to evoke a history more so than they actually have one.
Yeah, I like that.
Are you okay with that, Matt?
Yeah, that's great. I just read The Old Man and the Sea. I'm thinking of harpoons.
Okay, cool. So we get to the engines.
Yay.
So engines are semi-sentient combat mechs, each unique from the others. They have identities, memories, and emotions of their own. There's 4 questions to do with these before we get on to actually creating some. The four questions are: why can't we build more? What do they yearn for? What names are they given? And how does our transcendence affect them?
I think we, for the first one, why can't we build more? They are semi-sentient, right? So maybe the reason we can't build more is we have lost the ability to nurture a machine into this semi-sentience, because we have lost a lot of intimacy in our culture, and that is actually what it would be required. This is not common knowledge, probably, but they can't be nurtured. They can't be fostered, because we don't know how to do that properly with something as complex and finicky as that. And also, it might just be that we don't have the materials. That's also possible.
It could be that the hearts of these engines are ancient divine relics that we were able to retrieve through in different eras of time, which would make us the big bad treasure hunters pillaging cultures through time, which is interesting. And the reason why we can't get more is because our portal technology is destabilized. But I do really like the nurture component. I do really like the hitting the sentience angle here, but I do want them to have a hook into our themes or our milieu of like why do we have these giant robots or even semi-organic beings that we can link with and pilot to fight off the Leviathans and maybe the reawoken ancient gods. So we can't build more.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
light
it could
topic.
be. Sorry, go ahead, Ian.
It's just, it's a little bit of light philosophical work to think about.
I was wondering, it could be both, right? So it could be that these engines are the kind of core sentience for these engines what is divine, and you just don't have the kind of understanding of like you've this lack of technical but also kind of intimate knowledge of these things to create them by yourselves, right?
Yeah, we don't know the prayers.
I like prayer as powering them. I mean, the Leviathans have come to reclaim something we stole. And so I like that what we've stole has both allowed us to open and sustain these portals to allow us to continue traveling through time. Like maybe the first instance of that gave us access to this whole other world. And then we went on to steal fragments of like God consciousnesses or ways to sort of channel these powers into these beings. And like I like the thought of literally like bringing the power of other people's worship or other godlike entities through time and transplanting them into our engines. But that is kind of nasty and sinister. Just looking at our series sheet and want to work with like we trespassed in the god's domain. And what did we do when we were there? We stole something. So
yeah,
it makes sense to me.
Yeah. What do you think these engines yearn for?
maybe they want to be reunited with the gods, or they yearn for intimacy, which is the one thing that we are really, really bad with. That would be an easy answer. Well,
What do you think,
I
Ian?
have an idea, but I'm going to have to answer the next question first.
Okay.
Right. I like the idea that these engines are in some way like reflections of the, an aspect of the deity, right? So you've got like to use Greek terminology, you've got a Zeus engine and a Hera engine and an Aphrodite engine and so on. And I think it would be cool if the engines were like named after gods or named
Yeah.
after deities or something like this. Um,
Yeah.
And I feel like the thing that the engines might yearn for is, and tell me which one you think is more interesting, is to either play out the story of that god or the opposite, to like break the cycle and, and find their own identity, or, find their own kind of something that's not tied to an old story.
I love the
That's my
idea that they are like gods forgotten to time, and we can pull from all sorts of different pantheons and have like a big mishmash of god um, stories that are involved here, and they might mean little to our characters wherever we are in our world. But I also like that they're just fragments or pieces or reflections of these divinities, and they are lacking all the worship and context that made them gods in their eras. So they are sustained by whatever like relics or power we have taken through time to bring them here to fight with us. But maybe all they want is to be like to not have to be gods or not have to be sustained by prayer and worship, or to be able to just be humans and people and to connect with us in way.
Maybe not humans,
And
not human, but to be people, right?
yes,
So what they're basically yearning for is freedom.
yeah. And I don't really want it to be like we're, I don't want it to be like it feels like stepping on a consent thing here to like say that they're like, we're holding them against their will. I mean, we kind of are, and I'm okay with that on some extent, but I don't want to really hit on the like, they're yearning for freedom and we have them trapped. Like, we can be a little nasty like that, but I want it to be nuanced. Like they've been brought to another time and place, and they can't really go back to the way they were, and they were maybe forgotten gods until we, brought them here. But now it's like, what do we do with them, and what do they do once their purpose is fulfilled for us?
I like the through line there of like looking, we've all kind of touched on this idea of like looking for their own identity, or like wanting
Yeah.
to, to become a real boy, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I was thinking about. They are not finished, right? They are not finished as persons. They are semi-sentient, not fully sentient. And maybe that's what they're yearning for, to become fully sentient and make their own choices.
And everyone knows that the way that you do that is you send them out to go fight Iranian eyeless horrors,
I mean, maybe they can't really voice what they want. And maybe that's like, okay, we need these bad babies to help us fight the Leviathans. I mean,
And maybe we've chosen them based on what we think that they'll be able to do, or like the stories of the gods, that the little bits that we know, that we think if they play them out the way that they should, then they would be our best assets in this war. But turns out they're complicated.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I can get behind this messy identity of the engines. Yeah, it kind of makes sense given everything. I don't know whether the next question makes it even messier or ties a bow on it. How does your transcendence affect them?
Would you do me the favor, Donna, as somebody who has not um maybe read the book as closely as possible? Would you just define transcendence for me?
Yeah, I was gonna ask the same
Yeah,
thing.
so um,
Just,
transcendence is where we see your characters like show their true self, right? So normally day to day you're kind of hiding your true self. But let me read you something out of the book. That's my take, right? Yeah, so the core of transcendence is embodying your truest self, an exultant expression of everything that the characters are forced to bury and deny about themselves in their day-to-day lives. And I guess in terms of this series, like transcendence is like when you really, I guess, maybe feel closest to your engine, right? Where you're able to get the most out of your engine.
You're in like 100% sync
Yeah,
with
yeah.
the engine.
If we teeter on the Pacific Rim, yeah.
I have an answer for how I think this, like my character's transcendence affects it. And I think that's probably going to be different for everybody because we all have different ways of expressing that, right?
Um,
Or are we talking more in a sort of
well, yeah. I mean, I think because we also don't know like what the engine is that we're talking about, and potentially it could be with almost any of the engines that we create. Um, so, I mean, I wonder maybe we can have a general answer to this, and then we will find out exactly how each character's transcendence affects that engine in play. That's fair.
I think maybe that for them it's the idea that because we are sentient and when they kind of merge with us, they get more sentient, that's their path to what they want to become. We're kind of their teachers, maybe not consciously, but that's what they kind of take from us, the idea of how to be a sentient thing, how to be a person. That's what they learn here because they don't know that yet.
I think in like the simplest terms, also it's intimacy,
Yeah.
which I think it's a chance for them to gain more agency as they recognize what it is like to have will. And transcendence is like us realizing our ultimate ourselves and like and having breakthroughs. So I think that we would probably experience some bleed between us, and we might pick up on little whispers of their age or who they were that they don't even remember that they were. But I think for them, it's almost like the android having that moment that changes everything, that clarity.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. Ian, do you have anything extra to add to that? Like,
no, I'm 100%.
Okay.
I'm in 100% sync with this.
Cool.
Wow.
So, engines. So we each, or even me, we each get to add one engine to the hangar. So this is in the engines and flagships section. Doing the following, we get to describe it, name it, and assign it one virtue and one impulse. Now let me get a list of those virtues.
And we don't get to pilot the engines
We
that
don't get to
create.
pilot the engine that we create. And I guess we get to explore a little bit why that is. Why don't I have a list? No, I don't seem to have a list on the PDF I'm looking at.
Yeah,
So
the PDF.
I'll have to read them out, and then maybe I'll type them into the chat. The virtues are elegant, fierce, clever, powerful, bright, wise, brave, and serene.
They're in the chat.
Oh, okay. Thanks much.
No problem.
Did you find that in the full PDF?
Yes, I
Okay,
did.
cool. The impulses are cursed, imperious, sentimental, lost, tormented, weary, lonely, ancient, principled, haunted, wounded, unfinished, morbid, calculating, feral, and hungry. Okay. So again, there's no restriction on us like doubling up, but I guess it makes it seems more interesting if we don't, but we certainly can. So yeah, we're giving it a name, a virtue, and impulse, and yeah, if we need a description, I guess a name is enough to get going with. And if that is a god's name, I guess we have some kind of inkling as to what's going on there with the vibe. Does anyone have any specific gods in mind?
I'm looking at.
Oh, there it is. Sorry, it's on the engines and flagship sheet.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
Yeah. There's also the engine virtues and impulses are there.
Yeah,
as well.
that's what I was looking for it on the.
Okay, Matt, you were saying.
Yeah, does anyone have any gods in mind?
I was looking at both Durga and Kali, the Hindu pantheon. Both sort of destructive, but for different reasons. Kali's much more time, change, creation, like very that Plutonic energy, and then Durga's a little more like motherhood and divine wrath for liberation. I'm kind of trying to like I'm thinking about like initially I was like, oh, what would I want to pilot? Now I'm like, how do I set you guys up? But it might just be best to make something that's cool and then we'll find out. Because, I'm gonna keep scrolling a little bit, but those two I think are sweet.
I have an idea for a Luna, and that would be a serene. Puts me in mind of Luna. We don't have that moon here, right? But still, the image of a cool silvery presence in the night, guiding maybe dreams and introspection. That seems like interesting to me. Could be also could be either haunted, maybe, or principled as the for their impulse, or maybe lost. That's also cool, because the moon, the ancient moon, is lost. But I like haunted better.
The moon.
I will write her down just so we have something there.
It's good.
Unless somebody else wanted these specific virtues and impulses. Okay.
You got it.
Cool.
I'm gonna add one. I'm not totally sure how this is pronounced, so I'm gonna give it my best shot. I'm adding Shamash, which is the like Sumerian god of the sun.
Oh, moon, sun, nice.
And I think that the virtue is bright. Am I picking more than one virtue or impulse?
It's one virtue and one impulse for now.
Okay, then I'm going with bright and sentimental.
Okay.
With how sort of noble those sort of sound, I want to go with Kali, I think, and maybe powerful and feral, but I'm gonna hone in a little bit on those.
I think I will go with Tezcatlipoca, the Aztec god, the smoking mirror, shapeshifter, jaguar, all of that. What will I go with? Virtue. Do you have a thought on your virtues and impulses, Matt? Or
my initial was powerful and feral, or fierce and feral, or fierce and hungry, or fierce and morbid, something like that.
Okay. I'm going with clever for the virtue, and yeah, all the options and the impulses were my shortlist too, Matt. Hungry, haunted.
Sorry.
But
so I could go with Durga and have a little more of like a motherly, protective, destructive force, if you want to go a little more the feral route.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with the god you chose.
Okay.
What were your first choices for?
I think my first choice was probably hungry.
Yeah.
So I'll stick with that.
And then did you have a virtue?
Yeah, clever.
Nice. Clever and hungry. Oh.
One of the first kids' toys my daughter got was a little stuffed leopard, and I called it Tezcat.
Cool.
Because that's the relatively child-friendly version of Tezcatlipoca. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, let me just get it in the keeper here.
So I'm looking at the time, and I think we probably have enough time to finish our questions, and we'll save character generation for the next time. Which, or maybe that might require some emailing to do some connections. Let's cross that bridge when we come to it. So yeah, so we have to sorry, you have to answer, because I don't have a character to not pilot one of these. The prompt is: your character is incompatible with the engine you created and cannot pilot it. Why? So Ian, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I created this engine without that rule in mind.
Okay.
You
thought, I really want to pilot this.
I thought I really want to pilot this, and I think that this probably is like, if not this engine, then like one like it is the object of this character's this enigma's adulation. She wants to be loved, adored, needed, I guess, the way that she loves, adores, needs the engine pilots that she looks up to. And so, of course, the one that she would want to be is the one that's big and bright and beautiful. But I think that the god of the sun is often like a very like paternalistic figure, is like, the leader of the pantheon in a lot of cases, or or something. And I think that Shamash has like quite a orthodox streak and won't accept her as the pilot because she hasn't passed the test.
So that burns, right?
Stands.
I can tell you why Luna and whoever my character is do not bond well, or maybe they bonded a little too well, actually, because the thing is, they like each other. That's fine, but they can't work with each other because as soon as they vibe, they are like dreaming and looking at things, but they're not fighting. That's not useful. So while that is a good might be a good connection, because Luna's serenity might calm my character's rage at the injustice of it all, it can't work. It won't, because if my character's calm, they won't fight. And if Luna has to deal with my character, they also won't fight. So no, they're not a good fit. Go to someone else. You messed up little criminal.
Matt, how about Durga and your character? Why can't you pilot it?
I've settled on powerful and weary. I think my character is, or I think my character. I think Durga is seen as a motherly figure, protection, strength, um, and believed to unleash her divine wrath against the wicked for liberation of the oppressed. I think my character is not ready for the feeling of motherhood and the responsibility of taking care of others in that way and taking on the burden of liberating all of the oppressed. I think I'm right now more of a solitary figure and lost in love, maybe. So I'm willing to more do some like fight for a single person or fight for myself. But I think it's too big and too much for me to take on that burden of responsibility.
Okay, yeah. Very cool. Okay, let's do our last two questions for the series, and then or let's do one at least, and then we'll wrap up.
I'm chilling.
Transgressions. How do the pilots transgress against that which is sacred? So if we recall, that is edifices and organizations. Matt, do you have any thoughts on those questions?
This is as a group? How do we transgress?
Well, I guess as a group, but maybe there's a personal spin on this. Some specific transgression you think for your character.
Well, I think that so sacred is organizations and edifices. I think as pilots, we're naturally transgressing against the very organized nature of our society because we have such a personal relationship with our engines that the people who have put us in this position maybe cannot truly understand. So I think by nature of just being pilots, we are that. I think my character specifically is a forbidden lover, and so that is definitely a transgression right there. Yeah, does anyone else have thoughts of how we are transgressing against organization and edifice?
Yeah, I have a double answer. I have one. I'm going to answer this and the next question. Um, I think it's just like secret relationships, and not even necessarily romantic ones. Just like uh uh friendships, familial relationships, things of this nature that are like outside the kind of sanctioned bonds and hierarchy,
Is there
unlike any friends.
is there something like in the frigates that carry your engines? There's obviously a much smaller number of people there. you spend time there that maybe the rest of society doesn't even imagine the kind of privacy or the intimacy that you get out there.
Yeah. I mean, and like generally, of course, the whole society is like bent towards this mission or this crusade or whatever. But it's the people who are on board, like the frigate that my engine launches from, that are directly related to like my survival. And I think there's something that comes from that. Um,
I think we also transgress in a way because we are helping like define the fates of these gods that we are sharing a mind with. And um, I just love the idea that like everything that they've set us up to do is in counter to a lot of the principles. Like, and so, but they can never show, we can never show that to people, or they could never show that to people because it would bring it all down. But
And I also think we are transgressing because we have to, I think, work as a unit. Like maybe we have to actually, the three of us, or maybe some other people, but going up against a Leviathan, even with the engine one-on-one, might be a little too much for one of us. So we have to have a kind of bond of trust and stuff like that. And not just, and since we're teenagers, our hormones will tell us to go beyond professional relationship, right? We're not just co-workers. We're rivals, okay, but we're also the closest person who actually understands what we're going through.
Mhm.
Even if we don't talk about it, there's still that bond. And that's not exactly what society thinks teenagers should be up to. Teenagers, damn it, should learn their trade and become a functioning member of the state.
and I think that's a perfect answer to the second question.
Which is humanity gave it up. Why is it alive in us? Yeah, I think.
Which is intimacy and comfort. And I think that's we said it.
you know, the Carl Sagan quote, for creatures such as we, da 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 da, the vastness is bearable only through love, etc. Right? Like
Mhm.
he didn't actually say da 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 da. I just couldn't remember.
That's the first draft, right?
I love
Blah blah
that
blah.
as I love that as a quote about our relationship with our engines too. Like there's a vastness there that these are like God minds that we can only bear if we like open ourselves to them. And that's where the synchronization comes from. Um, and that hopefully we can love them, maybe.
Okay. I've misquoted you there, Matt. Misquoting Sagan, but I think we have the gist.
Misquote me all day.
Yeah. um, maybe we have time to answer this last question. What hope do we have? What hope do we have against the Leviathans? And I guess to prompt the following question: who believes we have a chance and who doesn't? Hmm. Ian, you're unmuted, so I'll ask you first.
Um, we've been talking a lot about this sort of portal technology, or like, like eyelets or loopholes in time, and how this technology or this device or knowledge or something has been disrupted somehow. Uh, I like the idea of there being like one final portal that we're trying to make it to, maybe to um, like return what was stolen, or to storm heaven and have done with it, one way or the other. But what we're trying to get to that point so that we can do whatever it is that we need to do before we're just destroyed. And I also love the idea that we are not sure if it's there or not. Like it's a bit of a to use the American football term, it's a bit of a Hail Mary pass, just like throwing it down the field and hoping somebody catches it. And I think that the hope that we have against the Leviathans is just to slow them down long enough to do what I just said. My character believes that we have a chance. And I'm not sure who doesn't believe that, but she does.
Any thoughts on that hope, Matt?
I think that the hope that we have, or at least the institutions have, and it is a true hope, is that if the God shards that we have like brought back can fulfill their and become their past selves, then we have the power of gods to wage war against this goddess or whoever this is that is sending the Leviathans after us, or whatever lurks in the void waiting for it to, trying to steal back what we have taken. So without sending the thing back, which is unlikely, our best shot is to have these god engines become what's the term? What's it called when you come into yourself?
Apotheosis.
Yeah, there's another one that I'm looking for, but yeah, if they can fulfill our hopes, then that's the hope that we have. I think that people who are more devout believe stronger that we have a chance, and people who believe in the organization. And I don't think my character truly, I'm not sure. I've been through time, so maybe I have a better sense of what we're up against. Maybe that gives me doubt.
Yeah, maybe there are some people who think that maybe we should stop messing around with stuff that we only half understand, like gods and portals and bullshit like that. I mean, there have to be, right? But since our organization is sacred and our edifice, they're outlaws, and that was my crime. And that's why I think whatever we try to do here is bullshit, maybe, and that there is very little hope that we can achieve what we wanted to achieve that way, the way that we're going. And I think my character has the vaguest shimmer of hope that maybe we can find another way without portals or gods or something like that. But, how is unclear. So I think there are people who actually think that everything, that the whole hubris we have, everything we hold sacred is bullshit. Because humans are not a monolith.
Maybe they think we, as the pilots, will become vessels for these ancient gods and ascend and become a new pantheon to bring our people into a new future.
Or maybe they think that we should be done with gods and all of that, because that is where the problem started.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they don't actually really like the pilot things and stuff like that. I have been press ganged into this. I'm not doing this voluntarily.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, things can change. I'm young. So
I was just saying what I think the state believes, not what I think your character believes.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there are people in the state who are, yeah, that is a good point, what you said. Yeah, that might be what the state believes. If we truly achieve a full integration with the engines and ascend and have a apotheosis, I think, right? Is that a word? Yes. Then we can save humanity. That would also be good. We can't find the final God machine. Cool. Yes. Fine.
Okay. So
Has this been helpful, Sana? I hope so.
Do you have any notes?
Yeah, I have some notes.
You managed to get some stuff down. That's
Yeah,
good.
a page and a bit. Okay, so I think we can leave it there. We'll jump in next week as best we can. I think probably the only thing we want to do for sure in the next week is maybe choose some abilities for the crew. But I'll send an email about that. So yeah,
Right.
I'll stop the recording and we do a very brief debrief, and we'll see the viewers next week.